Welcome to United Jews channel.
So
I have a question, Ryan, if I may ask.
Yep.
So who are the main anti-Semites who hate Jews right now?
the thing with anti-Semitism is it's really it's like a horseshoe, right? So the far left and the far right would be the most anti-Semitic on the horseshoe, right?
Mhm.
The people down at the bottom in the center, the normal people somewhere in the middle, middle right, middle left, doesn't really matter. They're not as anti-Semitic as everybody would like to make you think. But the far right and the far left are extremely anti-Semitic. Now, here's the problem. The far right are a bunch of crazy wingnuts. So when you hear a far right anti-Semite, they say stuff like the Jews control all the world's money and they live on bunkers in the moon and they're lizard aliens. They say just absolutely crazy nonsense. An average person hears them and says, you're nuts, right? Now, the problem is that the far left, which is starting to bleed more into the middle left, they say stuff like the Jews are white European colonizers who stole poor brown people's land. Now, which of those two things, if you're just a normal person and you don't know any of the facts on the ground, which of those two things is going to sound more believable to you? Lizard aliens living on the moon or white European colonizers, right?
Well, controlling all the world's money may have a ring to it.
Well, that's everybody, whenever you threaten their money, everybody gets upset, right? That's the common denominator around the world. You threaten someone's wallet, they get pissed off. But that's why what I tell people is, look, like right now in the world that we live in, anti-Semitism coming from the left has infected academia. I mean, recently, I'm sure you guys have all seen the curriculum change. Masha, I know, has been doing a lot of work on that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been to California and spoken at several different Californian schools, and I've seen firsthand. I actually snuck into a lecture at a Native Studies. Now, keep in mind, this has nothing to do with Israel, had nothing to do with Arabs. I snuck into this meeting, and it was an Arab professor from Birzeit University talking about indigeneity. And all he did for about an hour and a half was bash Israel and Jews. I don't think he mentioned the word indigenous once in the first hour. So these are the kinds of situations, and then people wonder, why is there so much anti-Semitism? Well, because
It's coming from professors.
Yeah, from academia.
And I think students who come without any opinions on Jews come out anti-Semites.
Exactly, and that's why, like, look, if there's one thing I can tell you to do, send your kids to Club Z, because it's not just me. There's other people that are going to come and they help prepare them so that when they get to university, I want you to just put yourself in a kid's shoes for a minute. Say you're a Jewish kid from an Eastern European family that came here, like at the time you guys came here, okay? So these kids, they came from a Jewish background where they have a really strong, yes, I'm Jewish identity. They have absolutely zero knowledge about what that means. They just know that it means they're Jews, and they're really proud of it, but they don't even really know what it means. They don't have any of the traditions. They don't really do any of the religious stuff, none of that, okay? Now,
because their parents worked very, very hard to make sure they could have everything. Yeah. And they didn't maybe pay attention to raising them as Jews in a proper way.
And that's a huge part of it, that, and also let's not forget that you had that forcibly removed from you. So you lived in a place where it was actually illegal for you to manifest any sort of religious spirituality.
Yes, I agree. And some people who came really, really wanted to make sure that it's different for their kids. So they did send their kids to religious schools and so forth, make sure they had bar mitzvah, bat mitzvah, but others, we didn't have it. It's okay. As long as they know they're Jews, okay, so they'll know it. And unfortunately for those people, they are.
Yep, you hit the nail on the head with one thing that you said there. It's super important that you actually understand this too, because a lot of the people that I'd meet and talk to are going to be the exact same attitude that you have, that they didn't really think that the spirituality stuff was important as long as they could give their children the things that they never had, right? Totally get that. I totally get that. The problem is now that you have an entire generation of young Jews who have, been, I won't say spoiled, but they've been very well looked after. We'll say it that way, okay? But they have no identity past the fact that, yeah, I'm Jewish, right? Okay, well, that's good. But now when your first experience of being Jewish is your first day on campus in university, and someone comes up to you and says, you Jews are white colonizers and you stole my people's land, right? Now, if this kid has no education about that and he doesn't really know what it even means to be Jewish, no real, like they know they're supposed to be pro-Israel, but they don't really know why. Their first experience is having someone come and scream in their face and act like being Jewish is something they should be ashamed of. Now, all of a sudden, this kid who has no background, no knowledge to fight back, they're like, whoa, maybe my parents lied to me. Maybe being Jewish sucks. Maybe Israel is a bad place. All these people are telling me that. Right?
And they reject everything related to their parents, and they don't want to be with the Russian crowd at all. They just
they want to be like everybody
distance
else.
themselves. Yep.
They're like every other teenager in the world. Want to be part of the group.
And I have to tell you, they have a point, right? If the parents, you could send your kid to Jewish day school, to Jewish summer camp. They can go to Israel on a fancy trip with a Jewish movement, and they can still turn out to be anti-Israel after one semester on a college campus, right? One semester. So Simone Zimmerman, who is a founder of If Not Now is a Jewish anti-Israel organization. She's a founder. Her family's from Southern California. They're big AIPAC supporters. She came to UC Berkeley to be pro-Israel activist. One semester, and she's standing against Israel. She's now condemning the occupation. She's now parroting, all the nonsense that is being taught in ethnic studies, in history classes, and it starts in middle school and it continues in high school. It doesn't matter if it's a public school or if it's private school, it does not matter. And same with universities, it does not matter. Even if the university is not known for its anti-Israel things, it doesn't matter. You need to, as a parent, you have an obligation, Tanya, it's to go to your question, how do parents prepare their children? You research the universities to which your kid wants to apply to. And I'm not saying don't apply to those universities, but you need to have eyes wide open. You need to know where your kid is going to go, and you need to then stay involved and stay. So Ryan mentioned my son, Philip. Baruch Hashem, he just graduated college, great school in North Carolina. Second year he was there, I wrote a letter to the administration and I said, just so you understand, this is not me being a helicopter parent. I have no idea what classes my son takes. I have no clue what grades he has, but I know everything that has to do with Jewish life, with Israel-related activities on campus, and I will call you out and I will be a pain in your tochuses every single time. I'm watching you, right? And I did, and I watched them, and I helped him organize pro-Israel events all the way across the country. And every parent needs to do that for their child. Because if we don't, the kids, at the best, they're just gonna shut up and they'll just sulk in their dorm room and they will not come out as Jews. And at the worst, they're gonna come home to your Seder meal and they're gonna tell you how wrong you are and how much you lied to them and how, Israel should be dismantled.
Yeah.
Well,
So
you mentioned UC Berkeley, which is the worst of the worst for the Jews.
It's not
Pretty
the worst. San Francisco State is much worse, but they don't care about the reputation.
Yeah,
I mean,
they don't.
like, please do not send your children to San Francisco State.
You know what,
Please
though,
don't.
also, Masha, you should tell her, because it's important too to understand that it's not necessarily just about the rankings and, one or two bad professors. Even a school like Wake Forest, like I remember talking to Philip, and I mean, there was a professor there who was Jewish and who teaches Jewish studies, and he was actually very problematic.
Here of
And
Jewish studies,
Hillel, which is supposed to be the Jewish, yeah.
right? Yeah. Most of the problem professors actually are the Jews. Just
Masha,
FYI.
so your bandwidth just cut out there. Can you
Yeah.
repeat that?
welcome to Silicon Valley.
Yeah.
I said that most of the problematic professors are the Jewish professors. Because
Yeah,
they
our
come
own
from the,
do that.
right, they come from a point of authority, right? And they can say nonsense and they will be given that respect of authority. So, yeah.
And then there's also
Yeah.
the. Sorry, go
I
ahead.
wanted to mention that non-Jewish kids come to the classes for Jewish professors, and the Jewish professors saying, I am a Jew and I think this way, and not Jews think, well, he's a Jew, he must know the right thing, right? I mean, if he knows how, if he feels that way, that's the right way, right? So they become thinking the same way because that's the Jewish professor. He talks about his people. So that's the wars that can happen. It's just
No, wait. That's not the worst thing that can happen, right? That's just the beginning of it. Because now you have to remember that on campus, the center of Jewish life are generally the Hillels. That's where
yes.
the kids get together and they do, like normal kid stuff, right? So now if you go to a Hillel, and I've seen this, I went to a Hillel to speak, and they had a Palestinian flag draped across the table as you walked in. Now,
Why?
I remember just being in shock. I was like, what the hell? But
What kind of Hillel are you?
Yeah, exactly. Like I was like, I'm sorry, I was here to talk to the Jewish people. Did I walk into the Arab Hillel? Like I didn't know any better. Now imagine if you're a young non-Jewish person and your Jewish friend says, "Hey, there's like a challah thing at the thing. Come with us and we'll go check it out." And the first thing you see is a big ass Palestinian flag. What are you going to think, right? And so that's where a lot of these kids, they want to belong. They want to be part of campus life. And if to be part of campus life requires you to start, listening to these idiots spreading their nonsense, a lot of kids, they want so badly to belong that they will. Now, and Masha can tell you this, when Philip was trying to fight back against a professor that was spreading nonsense, one of the organizations that he thought was going to be on his side ended up being an organization that was most assuredly not on his side. And that was the Jewish organization, the Hillel.
So,